On today's episode, we're joined by Alina Basina. Alina is the head of talent at Jobbatical, where she connects talented professionals to employers across the globe for short-term opportunities. Jobbatical lets you take a professional career break to experience a new culture, expand your worldview, and share new ideas. This is the Career Cue, the podcast focused on helping you navigate the signals in your career to keep you growing and moving forward in business and in life. Here's today's host, Stacey Harris.
So welcome to the show, Alina. It's so great to chat with you all the way from Estonia. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So which city are you in right now?
So I'm in the capital of Estonia, which is called Tallinn.
Tallinn. Someone actually asked me the other day, I was letting them know how excited we were about this conversation, and it sounds like they'd actually done some travel in the area, and they'd asked if you are in Tallinn. And I was like, I want to assume that she is, but I will definitely ask that question. So shout out to Judd. Alina is in Tallinn, so I'm sure he's got some great memories from there. So today we're actually going to chat with Alina about the great work that's happening at Jobbatical. But before we get started, let's actually talk about the term Jobbatical, right? Or the company name Jobbatical. What does it actually mean?
Yeah, so our CEO and founder, she came up with the word, and basically the way it came up is she was traveling the world while on maternity leave, and she was thinking to herself, gosh, I'm getting kind of bored and I really would like to be able to work. So she was kind of on this sabbatical, meaning that she was on a break from work on maternity leave and she was traveling, but she really wanted to work. So thus came the word Jobbatical. It's a job and a sabbatical in one. So what that means to us is whether you're looking for a brand new job or maybe you want to leave your current job to relocate somewhere for a year or for more, what we do is we take that talent with maybe 3+ years of experience and we match you up to an opportunity that would match your skills and expertise to a location and the type of company that you would like to work in.
I'm actually interested in learning a little bit more about your professional story or your professional journey, Alina, and how you landed in Estonia.
Sure, yeah. I have kind of a funky story when it comes to my career. I started off studying law and became an attorney in California. And this happened during recession in 2008. And so I decided that why not go into technology while I was waiting for my bar results. And so I ended up getting a job in HR and in recruiting at Google in Mountain View, California, which is where I'm from. And so I worked there and I totally fell in love with people operations and recruiting and human resources and decided to kind of keep going in that direction. In the meantime, I did find out that I passed the bar exam. I became an attorney, but I could not, for the life of me, find a job at the time because of the recession. And so I just kept moving forward with recruiting and HR. Post Google, I went to Skype, and I was there during the acquisition by Microsoft, which was also an interesting experience. And then from there, I went to some other companies such as Evernote, and then I worked at SK Planet, which is a Korean company in San Francisco. I've just been through all these acquisitions, and throughout all this time, I really wanted to work in Europe, just to give it a try, just because for the last 10 years, I worked in Silicon Valley. And every time I try to work or get a job in Europe, I would always get stopped, whether it was by immigration or some personal reasons. And eventually I came across Jobbatical just randomly through some friends of mine from Skype days who are also from Estonia. And I reached out to Jobbatical through their support portal and just told them that I thought they were doing a great job and congratulated them on rolling out their product. And then the next day, I heard from the CEO and founder, Caroline Hendricks, and she interviewed me. I interviewed by a few more people, and then next thing I knew, I was signing a contract and I was flying out to Estonia.
Wow, that sounds incredible. And it really just started with you reaching out, right? And you had a personal interest it sounds like a personal and a professional goal of working in Europe. And just by simply reaching out to an organization that is kind of living and breathing what you were looking for, it sounds like it turned into a great opportunity.
Yeah.
That's great.
Part luck, part just really pushing my way through.
Well, I think it goes to show that you have the agility to be able to pivot as well. I mean, obviously looking at your previous 10 years and thinking that you're going to go down one path as far as becoming a lawyer, and in the meantime, having, again, that agility to be able to go, okay, that maybe path's not going to work out for me right now, so I'll look elsewhere for some other opportunities that might be in alignment with what I'm looking for. And it sounds like you weren't quite sure exactly how that was going to work out, but it sounds like it's worked out rather well for you.
Yeah, it has. It's been a really good ride.
That's great. So just out of curiosity, what was the interview process look like in gaining that opportunity with Jobbatical? I'm assuming a lot of it was done digitally or virtually, or did you actually do on-site interviews in Estonia?
No, it was all done via Skype or FaceTime or Google Hangout. I think I've done all three of those.
Yeah.
So I spoke with 3 people at the time. I don't even think they had like a proper office. So it was just calls from people's homes, from people's cars, and it was the epitome of a startup with only 6 people maybe in the company, and people working really hard to achieve their goals.
That's great. So they were clearly living the technical virtual lifestyle, getting the business done and not allowing geography to become a hindrance in order to be able to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we do try to keep most of our employees in Estonia just for the kind of the cultural experience as we grow, but we do have remote employees as well. So it is kind of part of our gig in a way.
That's great. So actually, let's get into the trajectory of a truly global or international workforce and the increase that we'll be seeing, and how Jobbatical is actually helping address that.
Yeah, so at Jobbatical, our mission is actually all about thinking beyond borders, and it's all about how can we help companies hire international talent? How can we get talent relocated and really experience living somewhere abroad, whether it's temporary or permanently? Our product right now is based on relocating somebody up to a year. However, what we focus on really is a very honest communication between an employer and an employee to discuss whether or not this is going to be a short-term gig, if it's going to be a long-term gig. And to be honest, when I moved to Estonia myself, in the back of my mind, I've always told myself, if something doesn't work out, I can always leave. I can always buy a ticket. And it's been a year since I've lived in Estonia, and I'm actually moving back to San Francisco soon. And I will say that I'm actually quite sad because, you develop such a bond with people, and you really start to love the culture and make friends. And it's quite an impressive experience, and I would recommend it to everyone. And in my time at Jobbatical, we have hired close to, I think, 20 people from all over the world, from Brazil, from India, from Egypt, from Italy, from Georgia, from Ukraine, and that list goes on and on. Quite a few of us are from US, and it's just become this absolutely incredible international environment where we're constantly learning from each other and challenging each other. And I would recommend that for every company out there.
That sounds incredible. And being located in a new culture, regardless of where it is in the world, even if it's on the other side of the country, right? Because countries, can have nuances when it comes to their culture, but especially when you move to a different country, a year actually allows you to get truly acclimated and integrated, right? And you're not just visiting for 1 or 2 weeks at a time on a vacation in town or in country for a business trip. It's allowing you to truly understand what it means to live and breathe that culture. And then on top of that, the diversity of cultures that Jobbatical is hiring. I mean, what an incredibly well-rounded experience that you've been given the opportunity for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would totally recommend it for every company out there. Diversity is such a big topic today in the news, and especially when it comes to big companies too, where diversity has been at issue. And not only should it be a news topic, but it's the reality of having this circle of people from all over the world really does affect the environment in the best of ways.
That's great. So I think a lot of folks, maybe there's a perception out there that hiring internationally is a daunting task, or one that just seems so large or so time consuming that it can almost create this paralysis of, well, I just don't know how, so I'm not going to. How is Jobbatical actually helping to bridge that gap and having their clients or employers actually not take on that full load?
Yeah, so a few things. Of course, we work with some companies who are already willing and able to do that. Maybe it's countries where it might be easier to do immigration processing. For example, we have many companies in Southeast Asia and in Europe who are willing and able to do that themselves. But what Jobbatical now does as well is we actually work with a lot of countries in Europe and in Southeast Asia where we will help provide immigration services as well. Especially if you're a startup and you don't have the resources to do immigration, we will definitely help you, and we will do whatever it takes to relocate the talent and make sure that they're in a great environment and that they're set up. We actually have a Slack community of all of our Jobbaticalers that are on Jobbatical right now. And they help each other out based on what country they're in. So in a way, they're ambassadors.
So it's a community of people that are truly putting their arms around each other and just saying, hey, we're not in this alone. We've been there.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll help you on board.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's
just
great.
like people helped me here in Estonia from the beginning, we do the same thing for people maybe in Malaysia or in Singapore or in Berlin, Germany. So we're definitely helping one country at a time as we expand into this immigration process.
And so if there's an employer out there that's considering taking on a service like Jobbatical, or considering that as a part of their growth for their business, or if there's an individual out there that's interested in maybe taking on a Jobbatical opportunity, it sounds like there is a full service opportunity for folks, regardless of whether they're on the employer side or the employee, based on the actual role or the company that they're working for.
Yeah, we are definitely try to provide full service for our clients. When it comes to talent, we will help them as much as possible. We definitely want to make sure that we know who they are and that we are assisting them as much as possible. And if one Jobbatical doesn't work out, maybe we can help them find another one in another country. So we definitely try to provide full service on both sides. And at this time, we only charge for the service on the client side.
Okay. Well, and we'll actually have more information about how folks on either side of the table can learn more about Jobbatical and the services provided in the show notes at thecareerq.com. But before we actually go to break, Alina, who are some of the companies and folks that you're working with right now that have done a really good job of putting this into place with Jobbatical?
Great question. We work with companies, like as I mentioned, right now we're focused primarily in Europe and Asia. We have some companies in Africa and a few companies in South America and Central America. To name a few, one of the companies that we work with is TransferWise. Then we also work with Funderbeam. We work with PictoChart, which is huge in Malaysia. We also work with Nowboat and Switch and Outward Bound in Costa Rica. And that list goes on and on and on. At this time, I think we work with over 1,500 companies at any given time.
Wow. And some of those locations sound absolutely delightful.
Yeah, we just posted an amazing job, and it's actually to watch over someone's home in Bali. And you should see this private residence in Bali that you're basically maintaining and watching over and being paid to do so. I mean, it is incredible.
Wow. Okay. So we've actually I think we can do this podcast from Bali. I'm just saying. One of the great things is that we can do it from anywhere in the world. Okay. So, just to be able to look at the opportunities through Jobbatical, I've taken some time, and anyone that's looking for an opportunity, and even in the grand scheme of our entire careers, 12 months is a drop in the bucket, right? Mm-hmm. And for folks that are looking to shake things up a little or to kind of stretch and get themselves out of their comfort zone, what an incredible a service available to be able to say, hey, I don't really need to go out and try and look for these, things myself. It's an organization like Jobbatical that's actually developing those relationships with those companies. Those companies clearly have a need, right? And there's great talent out there. And to be able to use a service like Jobbatical is a fantastic marriage between employer and potential employee. That's great. Okay, so let's take a quick break. But when we get back, we're actually going to talk to Alina about how Jobbatical is actually putting this into practice. So kind of how are they living the Jobbatical mission themselves? So we'll be right back.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out the show notes at thecareerq.com, where you can also subscribe to the podcast and sign up for our newsletter.
So welcome back. Today we're talking with Alina Basina from Jobbatical. And Alina, I'm actually interested on how Jobbatical is putting the Jobbatical mission into practice every day. So do you mind sharing with listeners how you guys are kind of living and breathing that as well?
Sure, yeah. So our founder is, and really the entire company, we're very strong believers in, and I put quotations around this, but eating our own dog food. So we definitely do and try everything that all of our clients do, because we want to make sure it actually is working. So as I mentioned earlier, we have people from 10 plus countries with 24 plus employees, and we have grown in that respect in the last 10 months. And just like our customers would, we have a pool of talent of about 75,000 users who are willing and able to relocate, who are interested, who are experienced, anything from a software developer to a business marketer to a salesperson to HR. And so we have this huge database of talent who is ready to go. And I, as the head of talent, basically source the candidates in our database. And as with any candidate, I interview them, probably have a panel of 5 or so interviews. And once we're ready for the offer, we do the usual background checks, very standard procedures for HR. And then we start doing immigration paperwork for Estonia, which is actually quite simple. So, for example, if you are like a US citizen, we can bring you out here basically the next day, and you're going to have residency here in Estonia within 30 to 45 days, which includes all these lovely, lovely benefits.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's quite an overall easy process. And because Estonia is part of the European Union, people are super excited to try it out and relocate here. And people are not even scared of the climate.
Well, but I would imagine the summer is beautiful in Estonia.
Yes, we do have the white nights here, which are lovely.
That's great. So how do folks hire global talent, but beyond just hiring them, keeping them happy? You'll be able to obviously speak to how Jobbatical is doing that. But when you look at your clients as well, what are the keys to success in that area?
Yeah, so I think what HR people, and if you're a small company, you don't have HR, need to realize that the onboarding process does not ever end at signing the contract. The onboarding process goes on and on until the day the employee decides to leave the company, meaning that the hand-holding, the employee happiness, you have to maintain that throughout their entire employment. So for example, for us, when we relocate somebody, we assure them to buy a round-trip airfare ticket to make sure that within 90 days they can go back and visit their family. We also provide the first month, we get them an Airbnb to make sure that they have a place somewhere and they feel safe for the first month, and then we can start helping them look for an apartment for longer term. We make sure to help them set up their banking, help them out with taxation, answer any questions. So we have our office manager goes and picks them up from the airport. We make sure they have access to Uber so that they can get around and go and buy groceries, and it's a non-issue for them. So it's really thinking ahead and making sure that they are always in the forefront of our minds, the HR department. And then, of course, once they do get into the office, it's all about making sure that they are all set up and ready to go from day one. Their entire setup, They have their SIM card so they can make phone calls to their family, their internet, whatever it takes. We do welcome lunches, we do welcome dinners. It's literally just making somebody feel like they're at home and not lonely.
Well, and they've found a new family, right?
Yeah.
And, everyone is stronger, and there's obviously going to be increased productivity in a shorter time frame. If the small things are actually handled in order for that new employee to be able to integrate themselves and start getting to work.
Yep.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some of the tips that Jobbatical has for employers out there hiring international talent?
Yeah, I have a little story to tell about that. So I was speaking to a client this week, and they're from a tiny town in Finland, and they're a small startup, and so they've only worked with local talent. And so when they started to receive all these applications from all around the world, they reached out to me and they said, to be honest, we don't even know how to interview these people because they're, from a different country. Mm. And my response is simple. At the end of the day, we're all human. We all deserve exactly the same amount of respect and exactly the same type of questions that you would ask your next door neighbor. Mm. So I think companies need to realize that we need to stop judging people based on their name and based on the picture in the profile in LinkedIn or somewhere else. We really need to focus on the skills. Mm. If you're looking to hire a full stack developer, focus on that. Send them an assignment, see how they do, because then it opens up the doors of what it is that you guys can talk about during your next interview. So for me, it is all about treating everybody equally, gender, race, etc.
Yeah, so it's really getting down to, like you said, the person's skills and experience and what they can bring to the table, but also what the company can bring to the table for them as well.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely a two-way street.
Yeah. So what is it that Jobbatical is working on, and what are the goals on the plan?
Yeah, so we definitely would love to sign up more global talent. Anyone who is experienced to some degree, 3+ years, smart people living in places where maybe there's civil unrest, to people who may want to just have some kind of a change to travel while they're developing their career. So people who are excited and passionate about travel, about experiencing new cultures, and maybe it's just people who really desire to live somewhere new for a change. Mm. We also want to encourage companies to increase diversity and become more comfortable with hiring an international team who can help their business move into new markets, build new perspectives. Companies who are open-minded and are really thinking beyond borders.
Yeah, so that's a great opportunity for companies right there, right? If they're looking at expanding into a new market, hiring talent from that new market, potentially, obviously, even a year in advance before moving into that new market, may be incredibly advantageous, right? To be able to understand not only the level of hiring talent, but also getting true kind of real-time insight into what it means to actually grow into that market as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk about tech hubs and how they have the opportunity to thrive globally as well.
Yeah, so coming from a tech hub like Silicon Valley, we tend to hire in our own little community, and we kind of trade talent from one company to the other. You constantly hear, Tesla just took the executive from Apple, and Apple just took the executive from Tesla, and it just keeps going in this circle. But I do think, having worked in those companies, I do think what lacks is the freshness of bringing truly somebody new with a completely different opinion and mind frame. It really opens up your mind during team meetings when you're sitting during like a 5-day long sprint, all in the same room, having these all-day discussions. I mean, just seeing that myself every day in our office, you can tell just how much inspiration one person can bring into the room with a completely different mindset. So I do believe that we really need to start looking at hiring global talent from anywhere and everywhere, and not stick into our little hub and what we're used to.
So, Alina, obviously the tech industry is there is a global element or a global focus that they do have, especially just with the business of tech. How much of the Jobbatical opportunities right now are true tech versus outside of the tech industry? Do you know?
I would say true tech is probably at around 85 to 90%
Okay.
Right now on Jobbatical when it comes to clients. And then there's others, and we primarily focus when it comes to talent on software developers, a little bit of hardware developers, especially for companies that do software and hardware, like robotics. We also look for great business development people, great marketing people, HR people, finance, legal. So anything that falls under general and administrative, that's maybe a smaller percentage, but it's definitely in there.
Great.
And anything product development related as well.
Okay. So even someone that's listening that maybe isn't in the tech industry right now, or maybe in a field that's not true tech, there are still some opportunities there, and it doesn't hurt to actually start looking at what Jobbatical has to offer.
Absolutely. That job in Bali is just one click away.
I love that. I love that. That's going on my 2017 personal goals right there. That
I love
it's
it.
just one click away. So what is one thing that you'd like listeners to walk away with today regarding Jobbatical?
I think for me personally, being in my mid 30s, I always say I wish Jobbatical was around when I was in my 20s, until I realized that here I am in my mid 30s and I got a chance to do it. So what I do want people to realize is that there is no age limit to being adventurous and trying new things. There are plenty of companies out there who are relocating families, who are giving people opportunities with children to make sure that children go to international schools. So I think I just want people to realize that there really isn't an age limit to this. We're open to all possibilities, and everybody should give it a go at least once in their life.
Yeah. So what has been one of your favorite memories from Estonia as you wrap up your Jobbatical?
Oh man, so many to count, but I think one of my favorite memories is having a girls' weekend on the biggest Estonian island called Saaremaa, and just kind of being in the middle of nowhere with 5 girlfriends, being at a spa, cooking food, and just chit-chatting. There's really nothing like it. It's one of the most peaceful, beautiful, filled with nature countries that I have ever explored to date.
That's great. So it sounds like 5 years ago, you may not have actually, I don't know, was it a part of your 3 to 5 year vision that you'd be doing a girls' weekend in Estonia?
Never did I think that I would be in Estonia. So to me, it's just as big of a surprise today as it would have been 5 years from now.
That's great. Well, and it was an opportunity that came your way and you said yes. And I think that's what a lot of people they just really want to be able to look back on their life and say, I said yes to an opportunity. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think I'm officially, I'm going to go on the record and say I'm officially jealous. I am officially jealous. But if and you're going to be back in San Francisco later in 2017. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll be back actually in February, but I will continue to work for Jobbatical because, as I mentioned, as long as we all have a very open relationship between the employer and employee, there are possibilities to continue working for the company if you're interested, whether it's in the same country or whether it's remote.
Oh, that's great. And I just love the fact that you are living the Jobbatical mission, Alina.
Yeah.
And it's just, and because it's important, right? Especially when you're talking to clients and potential employees, is that you can talk to what your experience was. And it's not just something that you're putting on, the marketing section of the website. It is, I did this and I lived it. And here's my experience and the tips and tricks that I took from that as well.
Absolutely. Eating our own dog food.
Yep. I love it. I love it. Well, as we wrap up, Alina, we have a couple of standard questions that we ask each of our guests. The beautiful part about this is that there are no standard answers. So let's get into what was your first job and what did you learn from that you still use today?
Oh man, my first job was when I was 14 and I lied on my application about my age and it was at McDonald's in San Mateo, California, and I worked at McDonald's for 1 year, and I think to this day that was by far the most physically challenging job, to be on your feet 10 hours a day, smiling all day and being as pleasant to some of the cruelest moments that humans can experience at times.
Well, and that, smile on your face and good customer service will get you through. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what have you read or listened to or watched recently that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Ooh, good question. What I have watched, actually, I just finished yesterday, was The Crown on Netflix. And that was fantastic. And I just saw they won the Golden Globe. And yeah, that was great.
Yes.
When it comes to reading, I try to read a lot of kind of motivational books. I especially like to read cultural psychology books and things that have been developed at Google when it comes to employee happiness.
So, Alina, you're sitting down and having, an espresso with your 90-year-old self. What do you think that she would say to you today?
Ooh. I think she'd say, "You go, girl."
Good.
Yeah, you did okay.
Well, and that you said yes to incredible opportunities and you didn't kind of just sit in the corner, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. So, last question, and Alina, I could honestly chat with you for hours about the work that's being done at Jobbatical, but how do folks find out more information about Jobbatical and contact the organization?
Yeah, so check out jobbatical.com. If you want to explore opportunities, check out jobbatical.com/explore, or you can just search on jobbatical.com. If you're interested in working at Jobbatical, you can always email me at talent@jobbatical.com.
Great.
And we have a fantastic blog where you can read lots of great stories on our website of people who are currently living the Jobbatical lifestyle. So I think it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. Well, just to be able to explore, right? And I love the fact that your job page is actually called Explore because that's what it's all about, right? It's exploring new opportunities. That's
Absolutely.
great.
I'm going to tell my UX guy that. That's the actual
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Alina. This has been a fantastic conversation. We are super excited and incredibly envious of all the Jobbatical folks out there, including yourself. We'll have more information about Jobbatical and how to contact Alina and her team at thecareerq.com. Until next time, Alina, keep having a great time as you wrap up your time in Estonia and enjoy your trip back to San Francisco.
Thanks so much, Stacey.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Be sure to head on over to thecareerq.com where you can get more information, show notes, and related articles to today's topic. Also, if you like what you're hearing, head on over to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, and make sure you leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks again.
The Career Q podcast is produced by Lens Group Media and recorded at Jack Straw Cultural Center in the lovely Seattle, Washington.